Hi, this is Professor Brennan. We're going to continue our discussion. This is from my interpersonal communication class. We are talking about initiating and maintaining interpersonal relationships, and we left off talking about our wants versus needs, and now we're going to discuss understanding the nature of relationships. We're going to go straight to that PowerPoint. Okay. Understanding the nature of relationships. So relationships can be, when we think of them as in terms of characteristics, we often define our relationships based upon the role we have with that person, whether it's equal roles or unequal roles, the context in which we met that person, the place, the environment, the situation where we met that person, and then how long have we known that person, the duration, the length of time of that relationship often determines like how we feel about that relationship, right? How we treat it. How much time do we give to it? How much time do we not give to it, etc. So duration, quality, length of time acquainted, context, where you met, how you continue to meet, and your role with that person, your social role. Is it equal, unequal? How the relationships you have, like the relationships I have with, I have a relationship with a high school teacher who I stay in touch with. And it's a certain type of relationship. And even though we might be friends, she will always be my teacher, right? I will always kind of look up to her, no matter whether I'm in like a full adult and, my age now is probably the age when I met her. She's probably a little younger than me when I was in high school. But the point is, it won't be totally equal. She might know me and I might joke around with her and things like that, but she still was my teacher. Okay. And similarly, you could say that with a student. Even though a student may, and I haven't had any students yet that's happened, but I'm sure it's going to happen, a student who becomes a teacher or who gets their master's degree or something like that, right? That we could be like professionally on the same level, right, in terms of our degrees, but they're still always going to feel like a student to me. I'm still going to feel like this certain paternalistic kind of feeling toward that student, the way I am as a teacher. So there's truth to that in terms of your role of how you met, and can you ever transcend that? In context, like where did you meet? That oftentimes always influences what you talk about, right? Influences how you relate, what you talk about. Like, I'm going to use my teacher example. Oftentimes we'll talk about, because I haven't seen her in years, like it's been a long, 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 long time. If we talk, when we did talk, we would talk about things that we had in common. And a lot of it had to do with memories of when I was in her classes in high school. Okay. And then the duration, that length of time acquainted, so much shapes the relationship. I have talked a little bit probably in class about my friend who of 22 years, it was 8 years ago now, that committed suicide. And that was 22 years. Now, those of you that aren't even 22 and watching this, it will seem like a long time. 22 years is a long time to know someone and to qualify them as someone that is close or a best friend. And I met her actually in college. And when we met, weren't even that close. Or we didn't even like each other. It wasn't like we were close. We didn't like each other. We were in this group together. But we ended up finding that we really did like each other. Sometimes what you don't like in someone is oftentimes we're just mirrors for each other. Anyway, the point is, that's taken a long time for me to get past that. Losing her was huge, probably the hugest loss of my life. And I've lost my parents, my grandparents, but losing that kind of friend in that way was it's definitely the biggest loss of my life. So, all these things shape how we feel about that relationship. right? Experiences we have that. Like all the experience I had, I basically grew up with my best friend. We were like young adults and became into middle-aged adults together. And we didn't even live in the same city for a long time. So all those things, factors affect how you feel about that relationship. All right. Initiating relationships. Why do we initiate relationships in the first place? Well, obviously we need relationships, right? But there's other reasons why. We're looking at romantic relationships. Why do we initiate romantic relationships? So we do it because we find that person attractive, and remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So what you think is attractive and what I think is attractive, probably different things. Oftentimes attractiveness is dependent upon age. We are attracted to people that are around the same age of us. Sometimes, when I was younger in college, in my very, very early college, I was like, had this thing I was always attracted to these older men constantly. You could say I had a daddy thing or whatever, it doesn't matter. But I was at that time. And, gender. Remember, gender is your expression of masculinity and femininity. So it's expression of masculinity and femininity. So it doesn't mean sexual orientation. It means gender. How does that person express gender? Like, if you're a female heterosexual woman, are you attracted to men that are like highly masculine, like are really built and like have that kind of like masculine swagger? Or are you attracted to men that are more intellectual and maybe on like the thinner frame side and are more playful or whatever? I'm stereotyping, of course. And our culture again reflects like what do we focus on? What do we choose? What's important to us? I was talking to you about my friend who's an East Indian and who married a man through arranged marriage. They were arranged to be married and they're still married and have children, and their children, they have a successful life. The culture determines what is physically attractive, what you look for, right? So much of that affects how we choose. Also, social attractiveness. We have to have things in common. We have to be kind of like that shared meaning piece, right? On the same page. I've added this, perceived social capital. Oftentimes we're attracted to people that it's going to help us be better people, right? We are naturally evolutionary beings. That's part of what we do. We try to get better and better and better. That's part of I believe it's in our biological makeup to want to be better and better and better. So what we perceive is someone that's going to help us be better. Something that they have. It could be, and I mean social capital and in quotes, I don't mean like money in their bank account or their cars or driving. It could be materialistic, but it could be social capital. Often has to do with who do you know? Who do you hang out with? Right? All of that goes with the social attractiveness. Also, social capital has to do with, are you well liked? Right? Do you have friends? All right. Task attractiveness. Can you get to the common goal? Is this person that you can do things with? Right? You're looking for a partner. Let's say you love to cycle. Like I haven't cycled in a while, but if I were really a cycler, I want to be with another person who cycled. Right? If that was like my thing I did. Okay. For example, my partner is a fitness trainer. She wants to be with someone who wants to be fit. That's important to her. Someone who wants to work out or be physically active. That is probably one of her needs. Okay. Task attractiveness, intelligent, easygoing personality. How you approach tasks, right? We're often attracted to people that are not too high maintenance, not too uptight, that can be kind of have an easygoing attitude. And then finally, believe it or not, we do take proximity, and homophilia means our sameness. We take like demographics and our background and our region and where do we come from. We take that into consideration. It's important. It can be important. Unless you're like me, who's like box at that. And I'm going to give you examples. So I came from a family that a well-to-do. I lived grew up in a pretty well-to-do environment, not super duper rich, but it was wealthy. And that's what I was groomed, like, to be around those types of people. And so when I remember this guy that I dated when I was in college, he actually was from he was 2 years older than me, and he went to Stanford, and I went to San Francisco State at the time. I think I was still in, was I still in college? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And I think I was still in college. And he was the brother of one of my best friends from high school. He would have been perfect. He was the perfect match in terms of my background, where we were going, where we came from, etc. And I didn't want anything to do with it. Now, it could be because I was really gay, but it also had something to do with me like rejecting that. Like, so there's some things that I want that are same, but that piece is not like, that class piece is not that important to me. But we are attracted, this is what we're saying, in intimate relationships, we're attracted to things that, let's add with that proximity, things that we hold dear of sameness, right? Things that we want, that we like, that we care about. Okay. And oftentimes it's our attitudes, beliefs. So that for me outweighs like maybe the background piece. Okay. But those similarities, we're also attracted to that. Let me add to this. We're attracted to it because it makes life easier. Okay. It makes it easier to be with someone that knows where you come from, that has a similar background to you, has similar cultural practices to you. It's easier to understand each other. You have more in common. There is a certain feeling of comfort there. So that's not a good or bad thing, but that's just true about how we initiate relationships. We want to feel comfortable and safe. So there's a certain level of safety with that when we have those things in common. Okay. Where are we at? We're going to stop there and we're going to pick up. I believe we're going to be on theories in a minute. So we're going to look at theories and methods next. We're going to stop right there and pick up.